Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. One of your hosts, Jake, and with me as always, the Stream King, the Far Cry guy, the man who may cry devil, the Cyberpunk, and a survivor of 2020.
Yes.
Steven, what's up, buddy?
As of recording this, 2020 is not over, so...
This is true. You and I are dancing on the edge of a cliff right now.
Yep.
Can we make it through 2020?
We are. I got new glasses.
You know, that's funny. I'm wearing my glasses for this episode.
It looks terrible on this camera, but I paid a lot of money on these glasses, and they help me not have headaches, so I'm going to wear them, and you guys are going to deal with it. You're going to see the reflection.
Blue light glasses?
They are the blue light glasses, but they're also prescription because...
Right. Your boy's glasses. Blind. I understand.
Yeah.
Yep, Steven, we're almost at the end of 2020.
We are.
We should get shirts. I feel like before 2021 is already off to a bad start, you know?
Yeah.
Like, sure, the vaccine is coming down the pipe and everything, but we're still going to be dealing with the aftermath of 2020. So,
yep, it's true.
Hopefully 2022 will be better. I have no hopes for 2021. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Chortlecast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about. We've got a great show for you this week. Again, this is the last podcast from Chortle Games in 2020. So we're going to celebrate by taking a look back at this crazy year. We're going to
That doesn't sound like celebration.
It doesn't. We're going to run down our top 5 video games that we played in 2020. So I've compiled a list of 5. Steven's compiled a list of 5.
I have.
And we're going to run through this list. Now, what I meant to do, and I'm considering pausing right now to do it, is I meant to run through our list from last year.
You should.
And I'm really kicking myself here. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, I still have the sheet of paper with mine. Now, I don't know what Steven's were.
I have no way of knowing what those were.
Okay. All right.
Well, hold on. You talk about yours, I guess, and I'll check OneNote and see if they're still in there. All right.
So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. We do this every year. We're coming up on a 5-year anniversary for the channel. We've got a lot of great stuff. So the next episode after this, so the first episode of 2021, will be Steven and I discussing our most anticipated games of 2021. We'll run down a list of basically things that we think will be coming in 2021, things that either have a date or have been given the release window of 2021, and then probably some things that we're just really hyped for and are hoping for 2021. I have so at the beginning of this year, we did the same thing. What were our most anticipated for 2020? And I think, wow, this is really interesting looking at it now. I think it will be interesting to call these out and then to look forward to, hey, what we were most excited about, what we most enjoyed at the end of the year. I think that's a cool metric. So, yeah. Steven, any luck?
I have 2018 and 2017, but no 2019.
Can you quickly find it on YouTube and just blow through and try to skim through and find what your answers were?
I'm going to be a glowing, radiant angel on the camera because it's blasting my eyes right now.
What's new, Steven?
What else is new?
You are our channel angel. So, all right, here we go.
I just tried to search YouTube on YouTube.
And it came up. That's my question.
I stopped before I pressed enter.
Oh, okay, great.
So,
all right, well, here, I'm going to run through. So this was my top most anticipated of 2020 as written in 2020 or in 2019. So here we go. My number 5 most anticipated game of 2020 was Dreams, which was great. Came and went. It was a great time. My number 4 pick was The Last of Us Part 2. My number 3 pick was Animal Crossing. My number 2 pick was Cyberpunk 2077. And then my number 1 pick was Ghost of Tsushima. So knowing now what I'm about to talk about, this is very interesting. So maybe I should have done this at the end. as we go through the rest of this is going to be very interesting, because all of these things are on here, just not in the same order that they were. Some of them are. Actually, it's really funny. The two of them are in the exact same spot. All right, Steven.
I'm working on it.
You found the video, I assume?
I found it, but it's an hour and 7 minutes.
It is long. I understand. Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to go back and forth, Steven and I. We're going to talk about our top 5 games of 2020. And basically, we put an order to this. Doesn't necessarily have to be a main order. I definitely have one that is like, this is my game of the year. I assume Steven has a similar thing there as well. But basically, we're just going to toss it back and forth. Talk about my number 5. He'll talk about his number 5, number 4, 3, or 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. Yeah, all that. And then I've got some honorable mentions that I'd like to talk about. And then also, Lee Allison had an award that she wanted to throw in here. So it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time.
Okay, I got mine. I got my list.
All right, give me your rundown. Give me from the bottom to the top. What were your most anticipated?
So this is in the order in which they were presented, but I think they were in no order in the actual presentation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a really confusing way to say that, but it's a weird list. Diablo 4.
Did that come out?
No. Overwatch 2.
Shame. You excited about that one?
I'm still really excited about that one because it's a story-focused Overwatch game.
Oh yeah, I mean,
we had the same conversation. We were shocked back then too.
I'm still shocked.
Yeah, Rainbow Six Quarantine. Yeah, Watchdogs Legion and Avengers.
Interesting. Okay, all right. And I know Steven is always really good about. I'm sure you were excited about Ghost and Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
you always try to vary it up a bit because I always
when I know that we're going to overlap, I come up with some backups. And Ghost of Tsushima was on my list. It was part of that overlap.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's probably why I had to dig into these games that are probably not coming out for 2 years.
Well, you may have that in the next episode as well. So anyway, that was our top anticipated from 2020. Now let's go over what were the quote best, our top 5 games of 2020, as determined by Steven and myself. So I'll go first, Steven, unless you'd like to go first.
You can start it.
I think my number 5 is pretty funny, and I think Steven's going to laugh at me. But I think this should just go to show that no one should sleep on this game. And that's Astro's Playroom. Astro's Playroom.
It's a light year, guys. It was a light year.
No, it's not even a light year. I've got several honorable mentions. This knocked out Final Fantasy VII Remake for me.
Interesting.
Yes. I'm just here to tell you, Astro's Playroom is a delightful experience that if you have a PS5 and if you are a big or a longtime Sony fan, it is something you can't miss. Again, as a PS5 owner, it is the best show of what the controller can do. And I'm frustrated that people haven't taken advantage of it. I know it's like, we just got it. But even like Sony titles, like I went back to play Last of Us Part 2, right? And supposedly there was an update that had given it the adaptive triggers and it didn't, So right now I'll find myself just playing Astrobot just to get a little bit of what that controller can really do. And I think ultimately that's what it was designed for, right? It was designed to show you, hey, here's all this other stuff. Here's what your controller can do. Here's what your new system is all about. But along the way, they created a really delightful, really enjoyable platformer that took a look back at not only PlayStation's history, but gaming a whole. Because there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of Sony exclusives in there that are referenced, but there's a lot of other games that aren't necessarily exclusives that are referenced in there. Anyway, it was a delightful experience, and I really, really enjoyed it. And as I looked over, you know, I just quickly wrote out a bunch of games that I remembered. And then I went through a list of all the games that came out and wrote down a couple more. And Astro was one that I just kept coming back to. And I was like, I can't just put this in an honorable mention. It's a little bit more than that for me. So anyway, that's all that take on Astro's Playroom. I really enjoyed it. If you've got a PS5, don't miss out. It's free. It comes with your system. Just play it. It's great. I hope they do something more with it, but I don't know what they'll do. But anyway, Steven?
He'll be a Smash character. How about that?
Look. That would be cool. I'm not against it.
I am, but
I am, but okay. All right, Steven, what was your number 5 game of 2020?
So this list, I feel like this happens to me all the time because I'm notoriously late to the party on certain games.
Right.
But a lot of what I spend most years playing the most or playing to their entirety are games that did not come out in 2020. But these games that I have listed here are all games that came out this year. I wanted to stay true to that.
Oh, okay.
To that idea of these are the games that I enjoyed the most that came out in this year. So I'm going to start off. Okay, yeah, I do have a couple honorable mentions here. Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Wow, okay, yeah.
I want to reiterate. I did not play a lot of games that came out this year. But I do think this game is deserving of that. It was a lot of fun. It surprised me with how entertaining and enjoyable it was. I still haven't beaten it, but like it's one of those games that I could totally just, if I've got time to just sit at my PC and play something, I would be playing it still if Cyberpunk hadn't come out and distracted me, honestly. It's just a lot of fun. It is the Ubisoft formula, but in a way to where it doesn't feel like they're trying to make something else, like where they are with Assassin's Creed. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I liked how lighthearted it was. The combat was really good. The puzzle solving was really good. It's a fun game.
I'm so glad that game turned a corner for you because
no one expected it to be good. Everyone expected it to suck.
And I mean, and you know, we give you great for hating on Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft and what they're doing, but it's so fun to me to see, because didn't you call this game the Assassin's Creed Killer or something like that? What did you call it?
I didn't call it that.
It's the game that Assassin's Creed died for.
Yeah, the game that Assassin's Creed died to make. Yeah.
I just love that you went from saying things like that, and then it's like, well, it's actually pretty good. So
does not make that statement any less true. If I could go back and I could, if King Yubi himself, Yves Guillemot or whatever his name is, if he came to me and was like, hey, if we could just erase Immortals Phoenix Rising from existence, but you could have good Assassin's Creed again, like what would you say? I would snitch on Immortals Phoenix Rising so fast. But it's a fun game. It's not worth the death of a fantastic franchise, which it is still responsible for. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm glad it came around. I'm glad it came around for you. Okay, so I'll do my number 4 then. My number 4 game of 2020 was Spider-Man Miles Morales.
I thought it'd be higher on the list, or is this in no particular order?
No, it is a particular order. For me, at least. It doesn't necessarily have to be for you, but
it's definitely not for me.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, no, it's number 4 on my list. It's something I felt I had to put on this list. I platinumed it. I really enjoyed it. On the episode, it's more Spider-Man. All right, Spider-Man. I don't know if it was on my 2018 list when it came out, but I imagine it was. Because it was a great game. If you enjoyed Marvel Spider-Man, then you will love Miles Morales. But even beyond that, I think, you know, even with it being a smaller title, I think that team, Insomniac, and what they're doing with Spider-Man, I don't know, like all the love and attention that they gave Peter and his story and what he's doing, I feel like they gave as much of that as they could with the budget and scale of this game to Miles as well. And so I loved getting to know more about the character. I liked seeing their establishment of this character. And then really just what they did, even gameplay wise. I mean, they took the swinging is amazing. We always talked about that in Spider-Man. That's always a very important part of a Spider-Man game. But they took that, which was already amazing in the first one. It continues to be amazing, but they gave it the Miles flair. I've loved seeing all these clips from people who are taking the Spider-Verse and then their Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales gameplay, and you can't tell which is which sometimes because it's just like, wow, they nailed the feeling of what it means to be Miles Morales. So anyway, I don't know. I really, really loved it. Again, I played it, so I feel like to me that's a sign that I really, really enjoyed a game. Yeah, so I'm excited to see more what they do with that world, and I'm glad I played it this year.
Yeah, that would have been an honorable mention for me, I think, because I love the story, or I love the gameplay, but the story was just not there for me.
And I'll say this,
but we
too.
talked about that.
I am being a little conscious of some games that I know Steven is going to talk about as well. So I'm flipping a coin on you, Steven. Normally you're predicting what I'm going to talk about and adjusting your list. I'm predicting what you're going to talk about.
You picked the wrong year to do that.
If not, I may fly in and make an audible, but I will be shocked if really it's one game. There's one game that I didn't put on this list that I'm going to be shocked if you don't talk about it. So
did you not put Ghost of Tsushima on your list?
No, Steven, you'll see. You'll find out. You'll find out later. Or not. I don't know.
Okay,
Either way, you're going to find out because I'm going to be upset.
So next one I'll talk about then, just because I'm going to force Jake's hand, is Watchdogs Legion.
Okay. All right.
And again, this is in no particular order. Watchdogs Legion, it's so flawed. Like, the story's not good. It's a little buggy on PC. It's a lot buggy on PC. It's kind of wonky in certain parts, but it's that game that did one thing so well to where it's just like, okay, I'm in. It's that game that it's one of those games that you play it and you forgive the bugs because you're excited about what the consequence or what it could mean for the future of the franchise. It feels like a soft reboot of Watch Dogs overall, like what Watch Dogs has always wanted to be from a grand scale, like from like the point of view of from an overarching point of view, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The whole play as anyone gimmick is fantastic, worked as good as anyone could have hoped for it to work. There are, of course, cracks in the system, but they aren't so much so that it pulls you out of it. Or at least it wasn't for me. You heard them say, bruv, or what was it you heard them say a million times?
I don't remember, but it was like, oi, governor, fam.
Fam, that's what it was.
Bloody cockers, mate. Like, it just was horrible voice acting.
Yeah, the voice acting is pretty awful, but the gimmick works so well to where it's like, I don't know if I can say, like, the reason it's on here is because of the gimmick. I would probably be a lot more excited talking about it if the multiplayer had actually come out, but we're probably gonna get it next month. So we'll see. It could be like, oh wow, the game is really elevated with multiplayer. And honestly, I feel like it's gonna either be, when it comes out, I'm either gonna be like, oh yeah, this was definitely worthy of my top 5, or the multiplayer is gonna come out and I'm gonna be like, this was kind of pointless. Let's see what they do in the future with Watch Dogs, because this game kind of needs the multiplayer to work. And we're all just kind of waiting for that to happen, I think.
I'm curious to see what the multiplayer will be like, and if that really brings it all the way around. For me,
they definitely designed it with the multiplayer in mind.
Exactly. Yeah, you can see that. For me, I can meet with you in the middle and say, okay, on the basis of the gimmick, of a really cool gimmick, sure, I'm glad it's on that list. But yeah, for me, and it's funny, I didn't mention this, but at the end of this, we're also going to talk about what was our most disappointing game of 2020. In our predictions at the beginning of the year, we said, what do we think is going to be the most disappointing? And I don't remember what I said, but the one that's written down on my note is Watchdogs. And so
you mentioned that you did.
That's not, I'll go ahead and tell you, that's not what my most disappointing game of 2020 was, but it could have been a contender for my most disappointing game of 2020. I think what it is for me, it boils down to the story. I'm not interested at all in what's happening in the story. In fact, I would even go so far as to say I have no idea what's happening in the story, because it feels very much go here, do this. Okay, fly your drone to this place, hack this thing. Okay, get back on your drone and hover the other way. And Marcus's story, I couldn't tell you what Marcus's story was. I really don't know what happened in that game because I felt like it was very similar. Don't even know that the gimmick of playing as everybody is the problem. I just think they haven't. It's almost like they created an idea of like, people rise up to fight the man. Great. Okay, that's our story. Let's move on. How does gameplay work? Like all they did, and signed off on it and moved on.
Well, the problem with that is the further that they go into this idea of DedSec playing as a hacker community or playing as some kind of activist cell, is that to have a personal story would be kind of antithetical to what they're trying to do, because the story being itself an idea is the whole concept of, V for Vendetta, ideas are bulletproof. The whole idea of that movement being in itself an idea, and anyone can be part of that idea. And so it's like the narrative is bad, but how do you make that kind of narrative not bad when the lack of a individual character to be like a linchpin is part of what makes the overall plot good in a way? It's hard. Like, I don't know what the answer is.
I think, and the best that I could gather is there should have been a character, and I think Bagley is the closest answer to what that should have been. And for those of you that haven't touched Watch Dogs, Bagley is the AI that kind of interacts with everyone at once. And I don't altogether hate his character.
He's a robot. He's Jarvis with jokes. Like
he's absolutely the most enjoyable character I met in my time with Watch Dogs. And I feel like if I don't know what they needed to do more to make him. I almost feel like if I was fighting for Bagley, or if I was fighting for something more than just oppression, like, I don't know. It never hooked me, and that's all it is.
I just thought through my head of like what they could have done. They should have made a background character, and there were a few background characters, and maybe they did this later in the story. I don't know, but I'd highly doubt it. They should have made there be a central background character who's like an NPC, but like you are aiding them in their mission to do something so that you can still have their story and you can get attached to them, but you don't play as them. You are just supporting their story. That way you can still see their story, but you are anyone. That's the only way you could have done it, is tell the story secondhand.
Aiden which would have been a great person.
He absolutely would have.
But I digress.
But he's coming.
He's coming. That's right. We're gonna have him. So
eventually, whenever they fix it.
Whenever they fix it. So yeah, that'll probably be one that I'll return to when Aiden gets released. But I'm glad you.
What about the multiplayer? Are you going to return to the multiplayer?
I'll give it a shot. Yeah, absolutely. I'll give it a try.
I think that'll be one that'll be fun. At the very least, I think we'll stream it a good bit.
We'll stream it for fun. That'll be the best part of it.
That'd be a fun stream game.
All right. As we move into number 3, we're getting to the good stuff now. All right. Now this one's funny because it did not move from my list. My number 3 game of 2020 is Animal Crossing. And hilariously enough, it was also number 3 of most anticipated. So it's somewhere right in the middle. And what I chalk that up to is this game, you want to talk about right place, right time. That's Animal Crossing right now. It released, I think, 2 days after the first real like shutdown happened. So like it was the Indiana Jones slide under the door, reach back, grab the hat, and yank it in kind of moment. Like it just made it right in time for everyone to be stuck in their homes. A lot of people are stuck in their homes, but you know, for when everyone was shut down, when everyone was shut in, we were all playing Animal Crossing. And boy, howdy, we were having a great time. I'm probably going to go crank up Animal Crossing after talking about it, and especially knowing that Steven's wife got Animal Crossing for Christmas. So
yep, she is playing it right now as we speak.
I've got to check it out. I've got to give her some supplies. And I know people who have played it consistently this is something I'm kind of upset with myself about. Playing it consistently throughout this year, I'm sure looking back now at like the Halloween event and the Thanksgiving event and even the Christmas event, like a lot of people probably didn't get to have like Christmas, and all these holidays didn't look like they normally do for a lot of people. So in some small way, getting to experience all of that through Animal Crossing is nice and was a nice touch. But for me, I think they took the formula of Animal Crossing and just kind of ironed it out, perfected it, added a lot of new features with getting to visit people's islands and doing all these different stuff. And also they're constantly adding to the game. And for me, that became a little overwhelming because it was like, wow, if I don't play every day, I'm going to start to fall behind. And so that slowly overwhelmed me. But it's a great experience, and it's so fun and it's so charming. And just the things that it's been able to do throughout the year, like people hosting meetings and people parties and stuff on their islands. I think that's so cool. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see where that series goes from here. I need to get back in the groove. I used to, every morning I'd wake up, I'd go do like my chores on my island. And like that might be the only time I play it. I might have just popped in for a little bit and popped out. But I really should start doing that again. It's a good time. It's way too much fun. So, all right, Steven, what's your number 3? What you got?
My number 3 is Hades.
Really?
In no particular order.
Really? Okay. All right.
Because I'm saving some I'm basically waiting to see what you
I figured Hades was going to be your number 1 of the year.
They are in no particular order.
Mine are in particular order. I'm just going to clarify.
Mine are in no particular order. I'm pretty sure that I always make mine in no particular order.
You typically do.
Because I want to leave some wiggle room with Jake's list.
Okay.
I might, it may be in a particular order for the most anticipated, but this time is different. So again, the reason this isn't number 1, if I was to say particular order, is because most of my time playing Hades was not this year. Because remember, I was on early access and I beat it on early access, and I've still been playing it, but it was probably on my best of 2019. But it released this year, and they continued to update it a lot this year. I played it a lot this year, and so I think it's deserving of that. You started playing it because you actually bought it.
I bought it. I played it through this first half of the holiday break. And it absolutely would have been on my list, but I knew to talk about it, so I didn't take one of my slots for it. But
yeah,
I tell you what,
where would you have dropped it?
I tell you what, it's a really good roguelike, full stop. But what really makes Hades stand out is just the quality of what's there. And what I mean by that is, the roguelike formula, you're going into an ever-changing dungeon, right? You're fighting, what is the word I'm looking for?
Procedurally generated.
There's all sorts of different enemies you can fight. You're going to fight them in different orders. You might fight this enemy on one run, but then the next run, it's going to be a different enemy. You're going through all these different levels, different stages. You're constantly getting powerful, but you're also bringing things out. Like, there's all that layer, and it's great. I mean, from the standards of what makes a good roguelike fun and you want to keep playing, they nailed it. It's perfect.
Yes.
Challenges there, the difficulties there. It's all there. It's great. It's perfect. But what really is the hook for me is they have this. They put a story in this of you are the son of Hades and you're trying to escape to find your mother. And on a flat basis with general Greek knowledge, Greek mythology knowledge, that's a pretty cool concept. And even my biggest hitch with this was that I feel like Greek mythology is just overdone. Like I guess it's because of where I went to school. Like any literature class, any like mythology class, any even history, some history classes covered it. Like it was always we always talk about the Pantheon and here's the Greek, the Greeks did this or the Greeks did that, and it's really been kind of I don't know if a renaissance is the right word, but like I've really enjoyed having Marvel introduce Thor, which kind of brought back this like, oh yeah, there's this Norse mythology around, that people, let's maybe talk about this a little bit. And so then having things like God of War come in and do their, Norse mythology thing. And I've been listening to podcasts about, all the Norse mythology and stuff like that. And even playing Assassin's Creed Origins, I think it was, and learning a little bit more about the Egyptian pantheon and what are all these guys about. And I think there's some other things. There's some other media that has brought them to my light. Anyway, all that to say,
Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yes.
That's that.
Yep.
That was probably what it was.
Anyway, for me, it was like Greek, blah, 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 blah. And now I've kind of been able to see some other things that are going on that I found more interesting, again, because that's all I grew up with. But all of that to say, the story they're telling here and the way they're interpreting these characters from mythology are really, really interesting. But beyond that, beyond the writing and the premise and the story being really good, the quality of what they are doing with that is amazing. Steven, as soon as I started playing, well, if you look at the game, you can automatically, I think it's very look at the art style and just say, wow, this is quality. It would be very hard to say this is not quality. I could understand if you're like, oh, this is a little bit too.
I can understand not being a fan of the art style, but it is undeniable that it is polished.
Yes,
it is quality.
Undeniably work, whether you like the style or not.
Yes.
Really, really high quality concept artwork, color work, everything. It's bright, it's vibrant. I love it. And sure, each character has an image. That image pops up when they talk, and that's all you get. We're not getting a bunch of animations or anything like that. Certain characters have a lot, like Hades has a lot of different art scenes that you have with him.
But they're so expressive even in those stills, aren't they?
They are. And it's just quality. They took that and they made it the best it could possibly be, and it works. But beyond that, the voice acting in this game is nothing but quality. And beyond just being good, the amount of voice acting and written dialogue is mind-blowing. I have not.
It really is.
Now, I've only played a little bit. Steven has played a lot of it, and he can say the same thing about today. I have not heard a repeated line of dialogue. Sure, there's some things, that your character will say, like, in the name of Hades, I answer this call, or whatever it is. Like, there are certain lines that he'll say over and over again. But even those, I feel like they made him record like 100 different versions of that. Because
well, it helps when the sound designer is the voice of the main character.
But seriously though, even when he says the same line over and over again, it sounds like he's saying it different every time. But beyond saying, there's not a repeated line of dialogue. If even the lines, like, I don't know if you've fought the Furies enough to get.
Have you gotten the different versions of the Furies? Okay. Even when he says, like, when he walks into the room to fight the Furies, he'll say something like, "I bet it's Meg," or "I'll bet it's this one." And even his response to being correct or incorrect can differ.
The only person, now that I'm thinking about it, the only person that maybe has a repeated line of dialogue is his name Charon, the boat?
Charon, yeah. And it's just...
he doesn't talk. He just moans. So that's the only repeated line of dialogue.
Yeah. You can fight him, by the way.
Like, can I just start throwing punches?
You can steal from his shop and he will wreck your life. He will kill you. But yeah, you can fight him. I've never actually beaten him, but I've never been brave enough to actually try.
I've never thought to try. It's probably not worth it.
Yeah, but it's not. But yeah, I've beaten the game. Like I've completed the ascent to Olympus 4 times. I've attempted probably in the triple digits, and each time you attempt, the characters are back at the House of Hades, and you can talk to them and you can learn more about their stories and just the overall lore. I've never heard a repeated line of dialogue.
Yeah. They're either not there and therefore don't speak, or they have a new line. And even when you're picking up boons from the Greek pantheon, they either
I haven't heard a repeated line from that either.
They either don't talk or they have a new line. You know, and honestly, I've only had a couple where they just didn't say anything, and I just got the item. Like maybe I could count on a hand what they've done.
And they even made it to where, like, there's a very small chance that you'll get a duo boon. I don't know if you've seen these yet.
Like where you,
but it's a boon.
One. No. I understand. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's where, like, I got this one and it was really good, but it was something to do with Poseidon and Zeus, because I had some boons from Poseidon and some from Zeus. I picked up a Zeus boon, and then he mentions Poseidon, and then Poseidon's noise kicks in, and he shows up, and he's like, "Oh, brother!" And then the boon appears, and it's just this super powerful boon. But there's dialogue that goes along with that.
I haven't had that yet. No,
it's awesome when you get those. They're so powerful.
Dang.
I forget what the one that was Poseidon and Zeus. I forget what it did, but it was on the stream. But it basically made it to where I was shooting lightning every second.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm shocked to know what you would say is your number one, because, and I know you're not doing this in an order, but me coming in late to this, I can't argue with the quality of what Supergiant has done.
If I was to say what I think the best game that came out this year is, it would be Hades. If I had a number one, but this is for me. For this list is less quality, because I feel like we talk about quality a lot, especially around the time of the Game Awards. So for me, this isn't like, what do I think the best game is? It was what games I enjoyed I played the most or enjoyed the most in this year. But I'm also limiting myself to games that came out this year. Hades did not get named as number one purely off of technicality, but it would totally be my number one if I didn't have that technicality of most of my time playing it has been for more than this year, because I love that game. It's so good.
It's a good one. Okay, we're moving on to number 2, and it's funny that we're talking about quality, because that is why my number 2 is what it is. The Last of Us Part 2 is my number 2 game of 2020. What it boils down to me, and I was refreshed on this, replaying the game this year. What it boils down to me for this one is quality. I think you can disagree with the directions that they took with the story. I think you can disagree with the crunch that they put on their developers. There are a lot of things that you can disagree on, but to me, you can't argue the quality of what's here, the storytelling quality that they have. And really, again, like I said, it was very refreshing. You know, you play the game, right? And when I don't know how to explain this, but like, I don't know how to explain this other than when I played it, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm loving this. This is awesome. But then after that, I played Ghost of Tsushima, right? And I'm going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima in a minute, but you could notice a difference in like how cutscenes looked and how people talked and all this and that. Not to say that Ghost does any of that poorly. In fact, I would say Ghost does a lot of that great. But playing Ghost of Tsushima is playing a game. Playing Last of Us Part 2 is like living a movie. And just the animations of the characters and how people move, and you can see the emotions on characters, and even looking at Cyberpunk, which I'm going to talk a lot about Cyberpunk in a minute too. Like when characters talk to you, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look natural. Even in cutscenes, some cutscenes don't look right. And again, Watch Dogs is just like watching a movie. And then beyond that, just some of the mechanics that they did, some of the things they allowed your character to do. I will sing the praises of the mechanic to go prone to the high heavens. That is a great mechanic that I wish everyone, every game could have and would take advantage of. If you can crouch, you can go prone. That just needs to be an automatic distinction, because it changed the dynamic of that game. It allowed you to go in all kinds of different places that you wouldn't think to go. I literally had to rethink how I approached the game. Windows broke in the game, right? Normally, and there are the occasional windows that just don't break. Like if you saw a window and were like, I bet if I broke that window, I could get through. They did that. The few areas where you have a rope, there are so many things you can do with that rope. And I was watching a video on Twitter of somebody kind of explaining like just to show what the rope could do. And it's simple things that, like, when you think of, oh yeah, I've got a rope, I can loop it around this pole, I can do whatever. They were just showing all the things that the rope behaves naturally. And they were a developer, and they were just like, I can't explain to you how difficult this little action is, and they nailed it. And so, I don't know. All that to say, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed where the story went. I thought Abby was a great character. I thought it was really interesting to see all the turmoil and grief that Ellie went through. I really, in having played it again to platinum it, which I still haven't finished, but I got pretty close before Cyberpunk came out. I don't know, playing through it again, it really just a lot of that cemented for me of you can't argue quality. You know, the quality is here of an amazing game, and whether you agree with the directions they went with it or not, it's amazing. So, and the bow combat is great. So there you go.
You're killing me.
How am I killing you?
I want to say things, but I don't want to at the same time.
You can say them.
I will not argue that, like, the design of the game, quality. I cannot take that away from them. Audio design, well deserved. Even soundtrack, pretty good. But I mean, you know how I feel about the quality of the writing. That is the only thing I will contest.
And that's what I'm saying is I think you can contest that. Of was this story the story that needed to be told?
From a technical level, it is preem.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Very nice. Nova. Very Nova of you, Choom.
It's Nova, yeah.
Yeah.
You know me and Jake, we're chooms. We don't let this skip between chooms. We're just a couple chooms.
We're gonna change the channel name to Choom Games.
No. Well, no.
No. Not as good. All right, Steven, what you got next? What's some other tops for you?
So again, no particular order for me because I'm waiting for Jake to say Ghost of Tsushima. We're playing chicken right now.
I've only got one more, Steven, so I mean I think you can figure out where it's going.
Okay, cool. So for me, I'll probably say Phoenix Point.
Okay.
And Jake, I can see Jake's face as I said that, and he said, okay. It was probably like,
what's Phoenix Point?
What's Phoenix Point?
That's what I'm thinking.
I've talked about Phoenix Point a little bit on the channel, very much in passing. It's the game by the creators of the original XCOM. They kickstarted it a couple years ago, and it finally came out this year. It actually just got its Steam launch earlier this month.
For the record, and when he said that game, my brain went, "Is that the XCOM thing?" So,
well done.
Yeah, I was on there.
Yeah. So, there is a lot there, but it's one of those games where, like, one of the reasons that XCOM is so prolific in the whole, like, oh, it's a game that has combat like XCOM. XCOM basically is the authority in turn-based tactical, and that is because of the new ones, because they made it so approachable, where it has depth but doesn't make your brain hurt from the complication. Phoenix Point doesn't quite have that. It does not. It sacrifices approachability for depth and just density. And so that's why I haven't talked about it as much. That's why I haven't done a stream series of it yet, because I'm still trying to learn it. But once I do, I'm probably going to do a playthrough of it like I did with XCOM 2. And I'm really excited for that. But for now, like, playing it is just like, man, this is great. I wish I wasn't getting my butt kicked so hard. I wish there's just enough to where it's like, I wish this was a little more like XCOM, but at the same time, it does so many cool things to where it has me excited to do content on the channel for it. But that's why I haven't talked about it a lot, is because it's a learning curve.
So maybe we'll see a stream of that in 2021. That's what I'm hearing.
It's possible.
Okay, great. Well, we're finally here for me, and I think it's no secret that my number one game of 2020.
Don't say Bugsnax. Don't you dare say Bugsnax.
My number one game of 2020, ladies and gentlemen, is Ghost of Tsushima.
There it is.
Again, as I just called out, it was my most anticipated, even over Cyberpunk. This was my most anticipated game, and it absolutely. This game, it just for me, it's exactly what I look for and what I want out of a game. It told me a pleasant, well, not pleasant. It told me a story that works and makes sense, and I was invested in. These people are attacking my home. I'm going to save my people. I'm going to save my family. That's a narrative I can get on, and it's going to take me all the way home. Then you put me in the right setting, right? Feudal Japan, which is just a setting I enjoy. But then even beyond that, you can't, if this game should have any recognition for anything, the quality of the setting that Sucker Punch, right? Yeah, that Sucker Punch did. You can't argue. I mean, just look at the photo mode and what you can look at countless that people have captured in this game. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful game. And you can't argue with that. And I would stop so many times. I'd be like in the middle of a fight and I'd just be like, hold it. Look at this tree. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to go to the temple. Like there were so many moments where I just had to stop and look at how beautiful it was. So they nailed me on that. But then you give me a katana, and you give me excellent swordplay. The different stances. There are so many. You only have one katana. You can, I guess you can level up a little bit. I leveled it up so quickly, I don't even remember leveling it up. You can level up that one katana. You've got a little knife. You can level up that one knife. But then beyond that, it is what can you learn to do with this weapon? And that's what mattered. It wasn't about, oh, I got to go find the legendary katana. Blah, you know, like I've got to, you've got this one. What can you do with it? Here's the water stance. Here's the stone stance. Here's the moon stance. Like, it was just so great learning the mechanics of what stance do I need to be in to fight whatever system I'm going with. But then on top of that, they throw in the ghost, and you get to be this kind of mystical, or not mystical, but mythical almost character, where you're kind of building your own myth. I described it early on as almost a Batman story, in a lot of ways, of you are taking on and a lot of this, you're becoming a vigilante, and just kind of seeing the cracks in the system that you've always been a part of, which again, that was a really interesting narrative that I took. But even beyond that, what I really liked about this, with this being a Sucker Punch game, you know, their infamous series that they had just done 3 games out of, a staple in that was you were a hero, a superhero. Do you want to be a good guy or a bad guy?
Do you want to be a bastard coated bastard with bastard filling, or the paragon of goodness?
Exactly. And that was exciting. That was fun. And it definitely, you know, I would play through good and I'd play through bad. And as we were approaching Ghost of Tsushima, I was really worried that it was going to be a similar situation of, you know, which the quality is there. I would have played this game twice, you know, to be good or to be bad. But I'm really glad that they didn't tie ghost mechanics to being bad and samurai mechanics to being good. You can use ghost abilities to do the right thing, or you can use samurai tactics to do the right thing. It's just about doing, you know, the right thing.
I really like the way it was presented, because I still haven't beaten Ghost, but the themes that I got out of it, I really like the way they did it, because they made it to where there is, to my knowledge, no actual consequence to fighting dirty, to using those ghost tactics, but the game makes you feel both sides. It makes you feel kind of that guilt of abandoning the code, but it also makes you feel the guilt of not doing everything that you could have done in your power to save others. And it's all tied to this idea of what is honor, and Jin's idea of honor. And at the end of the day, his concept of honor is not to fight honorably, to uphold the samurai way, but to him, the samurai itself and honor itself is to protect those who can't protect themselves. And it was a really clever way to go about that story. And it's one of those to where, like, the narrative itself wasn't the strongest, but the subtext and the visuals told enough story of their own to where it could have been a silent game, like no dialogue or minimal dialogue. And I think that it would have told as good of a story.
Yeah. And I love it all. Then you get into the bow, you know, there's a bow, you got a bow combat going. There's a whole mission thread where you're with an archer, right? And it's all about archery. You're chasing down an archery student. Just this game checked a lot of my boxes, and they checked it very well. So for me, this was the game that I enjoyed the most. It was my first ever play. I'm now hooked on getting platinum trophies now. I don't know. It's great. I think it deserves all the recognition that it's gotten and more. So it
definitely deserves more.
I think it does as well. I think what they've been, and then just not even so that it's already great, right? Then they slap on Legends, right? Mm-hmm. Ghost of Tsushima Legends, a multiplayer mode that, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we had no idea was coming or was a thing until they just announced it. And
They announced it like a week or two before it launched, so it was very close.
I feel like it was after it launched.
No, they did a trailer, because remember I sent it to you guys and I was like, wait, what the hell is this? And it was not long before the launch, but they did give you a little bit of a heads up.
I don't think that's right. I'm gonna look that up.
It is.
Ghost came out, enough time passed that I had beaten it, I had platinumed it, and then they announced Legends, and yes, they announced it, and then it came out, a few weeks later. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
I thought you were saying they announced Legends before Ghost of Tsushima proper came out.
No.
Okay. That's all I'm saying is we.
I hope you guys enjoyed that wild goose chase.
We had Ghost of Tsushima, an already great, arguably, already a Game of the Year contender, and definitely probably was already my Game of the Year for me. And then out of left field, almost a month after launch, they say, "Oh, hey, in a few weeks we're going to launch the multiplayer mode." It's like, multiplayer mode? What are you talking? Who announced? Like, when did this happen? So it wasn't like leading up to Ghost of Tsushima, it was like, oh, hey, we're going to do a multiplayer thing, so maybe everybody buy it. No, they waited till it was out, was good, and then they added this multiplayer thing. And it launches, and it's amazing. Like, in so many ways, I would argue that it's better than I would argue, here, I'm going to say this, all right? I'm just going to come out and say it. I argue that it's better than Avengers in a lot of ways, okay? And Avengers, I don't know how everything worked out. I don't know how much time Tsushima spent on Legends, but all I do know is that Avengers was supposed to be a multiplayer game, and Legends is better. I said it. There you go. And I know you can argue.
Such a multi-layered statement.
I know it is. But I think any layer you want to peel back on that, I agree. I still land on it. The multiplayer, just to peel away from that a little bit. Let's just ignore that statement. Moving on.
We probably should, because that's a conversation.
I know it's a conversation.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're trying to say, but I'm just saying that that's a very dangerous mindset that I try to avoid, because it's high quality. What it tried to do, it's very high quality, but to say that it does better than games like Avengers, Division, Destiny, does a better job than they do, is very much oversimplifying. And I only say that because it's a touchy subject for me, because I saw that from a lot of people, and it's like, there's more to it. You don't understand. It's fine.
I don't
Go
know.
ahead.
Maybe we should have this conversation later, because I would say that they made a game that I wanted to play. The only thing about this little multiplayer mode is that they released what they did, and they're done. They walked away from it. They did the raid, and that's it. We've got, 4 maps? I think it is. 4 maps. There's a story mode, a co-op story mode that's got 10 chapters to play through, that all kind of have their own little story going on, that kind of dives into the mythology and kind of the magic in Japanese mythology, which we've talked about on streams as we've played, how like interesting that they're kind of weaving certain things together. They got Uncle Iroh to do the voice of the narrator. I mean, it couldn't be a more perfect mode. Literally the only complaint I have is that there's not more. But they took the mechanics of the game. They adjusted it to be a multiplayer thing. They built class systems that work, that I think are dynamic enough, but also similar enough that like you can play to a certain strength if you want to. Like I've played the Hunter, which is the archer character, because I want to be stronger in archery, but if I get stuck in a fight, as long as I'm good and understand how to play the sword play, I'll be all right. I think arguably there are other characters like the samurai who they just need to be fighting and holding points because they can fit out and fight through it. I know Steven always complains about the Ronin, but the Ronin really does. I think the healing that the Ronin has is such a vital and important part of the system.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. I just wish that they wouldn't make it so hard to make a Ronin be more effective than just
healing
everyone's safety net.
Well, anyway, you have a great game and then you slap on this unexpected multiplayer mode that honestly blew me away. I think blew a lot of people away. Oh
yeah.
And they just very good thing there. And I honestly hope we see more of Legends. I hope if there's a Ghost of Tsushima 2, we get a Legends 2, or I would pay for just a Legends, if we just want to do Ghost of Tsushima Legends 2 and that be its own thing, that we get more raids, we get more gear and levels and everything in between. I would do just that even. So I loved it. So for me, Ghost of Tsushima was already best game, and then it came in and just was like, let me just nail this coffin.
Would it be a coffin?
Nice, tight and tidy. I don't know. Let's lock it in is what I'm saying. I put the lock on the gate, you know what I mean? And I shut it, but I didn't I didn't change the number combination, Legends came in and just they melted the number combination away so that it couldn't be unlocked. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Not even a little bit.
Okay, whatever. We're getting distracted. Steven, what is the last game you want to talk about that's not necessarily your number one slot, but really should have been your number one slot, because that's just the way this formula works?
You know how this formula works, Jake. I
know how your formula works.
I keep it interesting.
You do
keep it interesting.
What's the last game you want to talk about?
XCOM Chimera Squad.
How did I know that was going to get in there? How did I know?
This is one of those games that I haven't talked about since probably a couple weeks after it came out. But it's awesome. It's XCOM meets Rainbow Six, but not crappy Rainbow Six. Good Rainbow Six.
The good Rainbow Six.
It's just such a clever idea. It was a spin on XCOM without the thing. Like I don't fear that's XCOM now. I got the impression from it that was just something they're like, hey, here's an XCOM spin-off project kind of thing. And it was great. It was enjoyable. If it was just the face of XCOM moving forward, I'd be like, I don't really like that. But
I don't want this.
But I wouldn't deny that it was a ton of fun. But and XCOM just they kind of do that because there was the Bureau, which hopefully we'll be talking about this coming year. And it was a spin-off without uprooting the franchise as a whole, and I had a lot of fun with that. And that's kind of the impression I got from Chimera Squad. It was just a fun little concept that totally fits. It does not feel forced. It was just a lot of fun. It was good.
A lot of fun.
But I do have an honorable mention.
So I was just about to say, I have 3 honorable mentions that I'd like to throw out. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these. I'd like to just quickly throw these out, maybe give a sentence or two conversation about them, and then roll on. Do you want to start this one, Sam?
I want you to start this one.
Okay, great. So here are my honorable mentions. How many do you have? Do you want to do a back and forth, or you want me to just go through mine?
I was just going to mention one.
Okay, great. Well, I'm just going to go through mine then. So these are my honorable mentions. These are all good games. They either didn't make it on my list because I was being predicted. I was predicting what Steve was going to do, or they weren't. They were games that if we had a 6, 7, 8, 9, they would have been on here. So one of them was Final Fantasy VII Remake, a great game that I had no interest in until everything got delayed in early April. And I said, you know what? I'm here. Why not? And I played it and I fell in love. Absolutely fell in love. Am honestly kind of glad in a way that was my only, this was my first experience with that story. Knowing now how much was added. I feel like I really know these characters a lot better than even people who played the game originally, as my first introduction to them. So great game. And again, talk about quality. is like watching. It's like living an anime movie. You know, it is really, really well done as well. And I can't wait to see where that game goes in the next 10 or 15 years. I'll be really excited to see what the next one is. The other game I put on here was Risk of Rain 2. That officially launched in 2020, version 1.0. That's a game we've played several times on the channel for streams and stuff. But actually playing the 1.0 version, I was just reminded, it was like, this is a great game. This is another great roguelike. I
didn't even think about Risk of Rain. That's a really good one.
It's just every time we play it, it's just like, this is a great game.
It's just a ton of
fun.
Yeah.
It's a great game. I have nothing else to tell you about that one. And then the last honorable mention that I have is, of course, Bug Snacks. I would be remiss not to mention Bug Snacks because I platinumed it this year. I've got to mention all the games that I platinum. It is a surprisingly well done game. Very similar to what I was saying with Hades, of just quality of what's there. The voice acting in that game is incredible. All the different characters you meet are very they're their own individual. They're unique, and they have their own unique personalities. And it was really interesting getting to know all of them and helping all of them with their problems. And then on top of that, Bug Snacks tricks you into thinking, oh, this is what a cute little fun game, and that is not what it is in the end. So I highly recommend. I think anyone who had PS Plus and had a PS5, if you didn't take advantage of getting it for free, that was foolish, because it is a no-brainer to get it at that point. But I think it's even probably worth whatever it costs now that you're not into it. I'm assuming it's like a $20 or $40 game at this point. I would have paid that. It is absolutely a good time. So that's that. Steven, what is your honorable mention that you left out?
Looking through my library while you were talking about your honorable mentions, reminded me of a couple of honorable mentions. So the first one, let me just see if I can find it. I saw it just a second ago. There it is. Gunfire Reborn. You probably watched me play this. It was the one where you play as the cat that can shoot magic, but it's a roguelite. Yeah. That game is amazing. It's like $5 and it's actually doing early access pretty effectively. It's not Hades effective, but like they're constantly pushing the game forward, doing regular updates. It's a very small team, but like, and they don't speak they got kind of broken English, but it's just so endearing seeing, like, even though their English isn't great, it just warms the heart a little bit watching them write, type in like the updated patch notes in English. And even though it's broken English, it's just like, man, they seem really excited about this. I'm really excited about this. So there's that. Outward. This is one that I talked about maybe putting on my list, but it didn't come out this year. Right. But it has had a significant expansion come out this year. But that's just one of those games where, like, it's the epitome of not for everyone. But if it has what you're looking for, it's such an endearing game. It's one of the most. It's the RPG that, above pretty much any other RPG I've played, really captures the feeling of adventure better than pretty much any other that I've played. Then just making sure that I've got everything in here.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal.
There you go.
There you go. It's an honorable mention because I haven't beaten it yet. It would probably be the 6th or 7th for me. Like I wanted to mention it, but like I feel like we spent so much time talking about it on this channel to where it's like people are probably gonna be surprised that I didn't mention it. It's great.
I'm not surprised that it didn't make your top 5, but I'm surprised that wasn't like the immediate honorable mention. But
I was getting there. I was gonna joke around and be like, yeah, my number one most disappointing was Doom Eternal until I played it again.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because before we talk about the most disappointing game of 2020,
I still have one more honorable mention, but I was going to say Avengers
as an honorable. Oh yeah, you didn't mention Avengers. I'm surprised that you didn't do that.
Yeah, because it's because that game is still in the oven a little bit. Like it's I'm waiting on pins and needles to see if this game endures the bump that it's at right now. If it can just stick the landing with the next big update and really garner a player base, I really feel like it could cement itself this year. But I just don't know if it will. I really hope it does. And if it doesn't, I really hate that for them, because they are trying so hard to make that game work. And it works. It's just it just got delayed. Everything got delayed by a month after it came out. So it's just in a drought. So I hope the best for them.
Before we move on to most disappointing of 2020, Lee Allison last night, as I was creating my list, wanted to ensure that a certain game was mentioned. So she awarded it the, quote, "Wow, cool game" award. And that award is going to Dreams, which didn't make it on my list. It was on my top anticipated of this year. It didn't make it on the list because Dreams is just something that's so different from everything else on this list. And I don't consider it a game so much as I consider it a game engine. It is what Media Molecule did with Dreams is really, really impressive. And what people have been able to do inside of the game is really, really impressive. And honestly, I need to go back into Dreams now. And now that it's had a year to stew, and see what people have been able to come up with and what people are doing with it.
Yeah, that one's tricky. 'Cause it is one of those that, like, it's entirely based on the player base, like the creator base.
But I think especially right now, and even this year, and I think probably I would assume even into next year, there's a super dedicated fan base to that game. People making their own games in there. I know people have gotten hired from things that they made in Dreams. So it's a really, really cool experience if you've got the money to do it and you just want to try something that's very new and very different. There are endless games in there. So I highly recommend it. But anyway, now to move on to the most disappointing game of 2020. Now, Steven, do we both have the same one, or do you have something separate? Or are you gonna?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what my most disappointing game of this year was.
Is that because you weren't disappointed, or because you have so many you were disappointed in?
Because I don't want to say Division 2 again.
Well, here, I'll do this, and either you can agree with me or you can throw in something else. My most disappointing game of 2020 was Cyberpunk 2077. And I hinted at this a little bit last time in our Cyberpunk episode, which was last week. And I think what it chalks up to is it was, and I think it was probably smart of me to put it at number 2 of my most anticipated of 2020. I think even then I knew it was going to be disappointing. That's why I didn't put it at my top 1 at the beginning of this year. I even said last week, I was like, I think I'm mad. I think I'm just upset. I really should have said, I don't know that I'm mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, you got to flex those dad muscles.
Those are my dad muscles. I'm so disappointed in not only the game, but the launch. And I know that's not really the game, but it does. When I absolutely think when you play something affects your interpretation of it. Even just earlier this year, when you and I replayed through Last of Us, the original, there were several times where I was just like, wow, 2020 just paints this completely differently. Like there's the moment where they put on their masks and we were both just like, what is the pandemic going to have to come? And which at that time when we did it, like masks were not even a thing now. If we were to do that right now, the moment where they were just like, oh, we got to put on our masks. Like I literally say that now on the daily. But like even when we were doing that, the pandemic had just started and it wasn't like we didn't have mask mandates yet. And we talked about the nonchalantness of, mask up, whatever. Like we totally do now. So anyway, just very interesting stuff about that. But anyway, all of that to say, the launch, how the launch has happened and all the things that have kind of come out past the launch are just really disappointing. And I wish they had delayed it into 2021 and had polished it and at the very least dropped the PS4 version and had a PS5 version ready. Because my only hope for this game at this point is that when they launch a PS5 version, it's like really good, and makes it match the PC version. But even people on PC are having issues, But the only reason that I hesitated to put it on most disappointing, and I really almost wonder if I should have put it on my list still. I love the game and I'm really, really enjoying it. I played before I started. But like I played from like 9 o'clock to 12:30 or so. I had probably 10 or 15 crashes, like in just a few hours. It was crash after crash after crash. It's like a done mission. I'd get up to go to the next mission, crash, reboot. I'm right at the same spot, go to the mission, do the next mission, crash. And it's just like, really? This is exhausting. I just want to play the game. And I don't know. It's just, I'm disappointed in how it'll come out. And I hope there is a redeeming story next year for it. But I don't know that is there yet. So what you got, Steven? What do you, anything else, any other games you'd like to call out, or is that kind of where you're sitting too?
So like disappointing for me this year. I feel like it hits different because I didn't get my hopes up with a lot of games. I just kind of was like,
that's the lesson. That's the real lesson of 2020 is just not to get your hopes up for anything.
Yeah. But like there were games that just underwhelmed me. I don't know if I can even say underwhelmed regarding this one, but like Godfall, for example, was just a resounding meh, but I can't say it was a disappointment because I literally got it to play for Extra Life and that was it.
It served its purpose.
It served its purpose, I guess, but like for me, the biggest part of like when I look at just disappointment in gaming, and this is going to be really depressing, is just I haven't had people to play a lot of the games that I've been excited about with. So like the disappointing part has been the fact that like I still haven't really played Wasteland 3 because it's co-op and I want to play it in co-op. I haven't beaten Outward because no one will play it with me. So there you go. Biggest disappointment of 2020. Having no local friends.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. You're busy.
It happens.
Too busy for me.
Steven. Well,
it's whatever.
All in all, a great year of gaming. A lot of stuff happened. You think?
It was a year that was better than it could have been.
Fair enough. I'll cheers to that. Better than it could have been. I still look at it like Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, Animal Crossing, Miles Morales, Astro. I mean, like I've got a big list here. And I guess I'm not part of it. I could have had a list that was just 5, and like I could have picked the 5, and it's only 5. I might have had to throw in a 4th just to have 5. That doesn't make any sense. But you know what I'm trying to say. I could have been just throwing things at this to make it stick. But like having honorable mentions of things that like I wanted to talk about says, oh yeah, this was a good year. But I can understand where you're coming from. So
yeah, a lot of mine are just games that are a wait and see how they'll be in a few months.
Just like everything, just gotta wait and see. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Chortle Cast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment. You can also watch the podcast on Facebook. That's at Chortle Games on Facebook. And you can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and other podcast services. We'd love it if you could leave us a review on those. That really helps us out. Like I said last, I'm open to 1-star reviews at this point. Just whatever you got to put in there. I was thinking about it. I think it would be really funny. This would be horrible for metrics, but I think it would be really funny. Is if you go leave a 1-star review, but then like give a really glowing review of the podcast. Just like these guys, really intelligent, really funny, just like really, really praise us, but give us a 1-star, or vice versa, give us a 5-star. And then just completely shit on us in the review. Just these guys are idiots. These guys are horrible. Blah blah blah. But hey, 5 stars.
All right, a few of you do the 1-star thing, and then the rest of you the 5-star thing, and we'll see what happens.
Just see how it goes. So anyway, Apple Podcast, you can do that there. If you that's where you can catch the podcast. But we live stream usually throughout the week, and you can follow us on YouTube, chortlegames.com, Facebook. At Chortle Games Facebook, but then we also stream on Twitter at Chortle Games on Twitter, and on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chortle_games. So that's all the places you can find us. You can also join our Discord, which you can get to in the description of this video or podcast. We post photos, we let you vote on what we're live streaming sometimes. We tell you Merry Christmas, all that good stuff happens there. So go hang out with everybody there. As far as this week goes, we are this week is the week leading up to New Year's. So Steven and I are going to be doing New Year's Eve parties, and I'm going to be doing a gender reveal for my unborn child this week. So we will know if the next chortle baby is a girl or a boy by the time we record the next podcast. So that'll be exciting. It's a whole new year with lots of new exciting things.
I didn't even think about that. That'll be fun. Are you going to do a gender reveal for the podcast?
I wasn't planning it. Maybe I'll insert the clip or something.
Now that I've effectively put you on the spot.
Maybe I can insert the clip. If anything, go join the Discord, because I'm sure we will post a clip of the gender reveal there. So that's where that would probably go. But anyway, we'll know all that. Lots of stuff's happening this week is what I'm getting to. So on our plan at this point, we'll stream on Thursday nights, Friday nights, and Saturday nights. Thursday is literally New Year's Eve, and then obviously Friday is the day after New Year's. So it's going to be a wild time. We are going to try to maybe stream on Saturday, the 2nd. But it may not, plans may not pan out that way. But if we're going to do something, probably going to be that day. So I'm just giving you that out there again.
And there's always a chance that, stuff could happen. We may not be able to stream. We may be able to stream when we didn't say we were going to stream. That's why you need to join the Discord to see.
Join the Discord, follow us on Twitter and Facebook, YouTube, subscribe, all those different places, and you'll get notified. So just hang out and stick around for all those things. So, Steven, 2020, it's been rough, but it's been made easier with you and with you guys. And I'm pointing to the camera, and I mean that wholeheartedly. This channel has been so great to do this, and I really appreciate that we've had this space to, as all of this has been happening, really just come together, talk about it. I know early on when this was happening, we would talk about and encourage everyone to, be kind to one another and just like try to have empathy for fellow man during all of this crazy time. And at a certain point, we kind of established a new normal, and we've come back to this. But I'm glad that I have you, Steven. I'm glad that we have this community, that we can all come together and just play games, and talk about games and be a little distracted from the madness happening outside. And as we start to recover from that in 2021, I hope that I really do hope that 2021 is better. And I know it will be, because we'll all be together. So,
well said.
That's my sweet end of the year moment. This is our last podcast. Probably, honestly, probably the last piece of tent until 2021. So
very possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we love you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Steven, thank you as always for being here. We will see you guys in 2021.
See you next year.
He did it, ladies and gentlemen. He did a joke. There it is.
I'm not done making that joke. There will be another one for you. I can promise you that.
See you next year, guys. Bye.